Most men never understand they're standing at a crossroads every single day. Not once in life, every day. Every morning you wake up, you're choosing whether you die trying or die comfortable. And the part, most men choose comfort without even realizing it. They hit snooze, they avoid pressure, they chase pleasure, and they slowly decay while calling it peace. Comfort is the slowest form of suicide because it kills everything inside you long before your body hits the dirt. Trying, truly trying, hurts. It's painful, humiliating, exhausting, chaotic. That's why almost nobody does it. But every king, every conqueror, every man who ever broke gravity had one thing in common. They chose pain on purpose. They stepped into the fire while everyone else hid from the smoke. That's the line that separates warriors from the wasted. The line every man crosses alone. People talk like success is some magical spark, like confidence appears out of nowhere, like masculinity is something you can buy through quotes or podcasts. Bullshit. Strength is the byproduct of choosing the hard path when the easy one is right in front of you. And the system knows this. It knows men are scared. It knows men crave reassurance. So it sells you comfort disguised as self-care. It convinces you that doing less is healthy. It convinces you that avoiding discomfort is smart. It convinces you that ambition is toxic and dreaming too big is unrealistic. And like sheep, men swallow that lie because comfort feels good in the moment. They don't realize comfort is a cage padded with dopamine. You don't notice you're trapped because the prison tastes good. There was a period in London where I was so broke I couldn't even afford bus fare. I walked miles through the freezing rain, shoes soaked, jacket thin, stomach empty, pride in pieces. Most men would have folded. Most men do fold. But walking in that cold taught me something no school ever did. Nobody is coming to help you. You build your destiny alone. On those nights, staring at my cracked ceiling, I felt something rise inside me. A fuck this feeling. A refusal to die invisible. That's where die trying is born. In the moments where you could quit easily, but don't. Pain didn't break me. Pain introduced me to who the fuck I actually was. That's why I say pain is the compass. Suffering points you toward the path you're supposed to walk. Comfort just makes you forget you even had one. The world respects results, not excuses. You can cry about how unfair everything is. You can yell about the matrix. You can blame society, your parents, your job, your past. It doesn't change the fact that the world only listens to men who build something undeniable. Nobody gives a shit about your potential. They care about your proof. You either become someone or you disappear into the background noise of average men. And average men always die comfortable. They die with soft hands, quiet regrets, and polite memories. They die having lived the same week thousands of times. Trying is the opposite. Trying means refusing stillness. Trying means bleeding publicly. Trying means moving even when the outcome looks impossible. Trying means you're willing to look stupid for a dream only you can see. That's why comfort wins so easily. It never demands anything from you. You see, the system doesn't fear failure. It fears men who no longer fear failure. A man who keeps moving after humiliation, after rejection, after defeat, that man is unstoppable. Because once pain stops being a threat, all the Matrix's weapons lose power. They can shame you, cancel you, betray you, mock you, hit you with setbacks. But if your response is always try again, you become a problem they can't contain. That's why they push comfort so heavily. Comfort softens you until adversity becomes unbearable. Comfort makes you fragile enough to obey. Pain builds the exact opposite. Pain builds a man who adapts. Pain builds a man who doesn't break. Pain builds a man who scares the system because he no longer needs it. When I started fighting professionally, I wasn't the biggest, the strongest, or the most naturally talented. But I trained like suffering was oxygen. I watched men with better genetics quit because the grind crushed their spirit. They loved winning, but they hated the work. They wanted the belts, not the bruises. That's when I learned the truth. Talent is a luxury. Pressure is a necessity. You can't become dangerous without pressure. You can't become dominant without sacrifice. If you don't put your soul through hell, you'll never find the parts of yourself built for war. That's why comfort is poison. It makes you think you're okay where you are. Pain reminds you you're not. Pain keeps you honest. Most men live like they have infinite time. They don't. Death is stalking us all. And every day you avoid your mission is a day you hand your life away willingly. Trying is urgent. Comfort is delusion. Trying says, I'll build something before I die. Comfort says, I'll get to it eventually. But eventually never comes. The graveyard is full of men who plan to start tomorrow. And every man who dies comfortable dies with the same final sentence in his head. I could have been more. Trying guarantees pain. Comfort guarantees regret. That's the real equation, but nobody wants to say it because it exposes the truth. Most men pick the easy death. Your future self is watching you. Every time you choose comfort, he gets weaker. Every time you choose pain, he gets sharper. People think success is about money. Success is about dignity. Are you proud of yourself? Are you proving your potential to the man in the mirror? Or are you just coasting, pretending, distracting, scrolling, numbing, avoiding the war inside you? Trying is the decision to fight. Even when it hurts. Even when you're tired. Even when nobody believes in you. Comfort is the decision to hide. You know exactly which one you've been choosing. And if that hurts, good. Pain is the only teacher that doesn't lie. You are standing at the crossroads right now. Not someday, not later. Now, one direction leads to the man you could become. The other leads to the shell you'll become. And no one can walk either path for you. You choose, you always choose, and that choice decides everything that comes after. Comfort doesn't kill you all at once. It kills you in micro cuts you don't feel until it's too late. It starts small, tiny, harmless, innocent choices that feel like nothing. You hit snooze once, skip the gym once, delay that business idea one more week. Watch a little bullshit online to relax. Eat something cheap because today was hard. No explosion, no collapse. Just warmth, just softness, just release. And that's the trap. Comfort convinces you you're safe while stealing the parts of you meant for greatness. Men don't become weak suddenly. Weakness is the end result of 10,000 tiny concessions to comfort. Every time you take the easy path, you erase a piece of yourself. And the terrifying part, you don't even notice the man disappearing until there's nothing left but a polite ghost pretending to be alive. Comfort has a seductive voice. It whispers like a friend, not an enemy. It tells you you deserve a break. You worked hard enough today. You'll start tomorrow. It makes excuses sound reasonable and discipline sound extreme. And once you believe that bullshit, you start negotiating with your own potential. That's the comfort death spiral, when you justify weakness logically. Once comfort infiltrates your logic, your identity collapses in slow motion. No alarms go off. No one pulls you aside. You just wake up one day realizing you've been floating through life like a balloon with its string cut. That's how the Matrix turns men into spectators. Slowly, quietly, with comfort as the weapon. I've watched men with massive potential crumble because of comfort. Talented fighters who stopped pushing once they hit a certain level. Hustlers who got their first bit of money and instantly softened. Men who had fire in their eyes until a little success turned that fire into smoke. Comfort destroys momentum faster than failure ever could. Pain keeps you sharp. Loss keeps you alert. Comfort puts your soul to sleep and hands the keys to your life to your lazier self. When I was broke in London, eating cheap noodles and sleeping on a mattress on the floor, I didn't have the luxury of comfort. That lack of comfort was my advantage. Comfort is the enemy of hunger. Hunger is the birthplace of kings. Most men lose their hunger long before they lose their opportunities. The comfort death spiral accelerates the moment a man stops setting standards. Standards are what keep you aligned with your mission. But comfort teaches men to lower their standards slowly. You stop demanding excellence from yourself. Then you stop demanding it from your environment. Then from your relationships. Then from your life. Before long, everything around you becomes mediocre and you convince yourself it's normal. That's how comfort erases men. It replaces pride with apathy, ambition with numbness, discipline with distraction. You don't even realize how low you've fallen because comfort blinds you to your own decline. Comfort makes you tolerate the very conditions that weaken you. Comfort fools men into thinking time is endless. You think you have years to fix yourself. You don't. Every day you waste becomes harder to recover. Comfort hides the clock. You look up and suddenly you've lost 5 years to scrolling, meaningless conversations, excuses, and emotional softness. That's the comfort death spiral. Time disappears while you stay the same. And the world doesn't pause with you. Other men, hungry men, move ahead while you're numbing yourself. Comfort lets you watch other men succeed instead of becoming one of them. You start living through their achievements, admiring their courage while drowning your own in dopamine. This is where the death spiral turns psychological. Comfort alters your identity. You stop seeing yourself as a fighter. You start seeing yourself as regular, normal, average. Your goals get smaller, your risks shrink, your dreams fade. You become someone who says maybe one day instead of let's fucking go. Comfort rewires your self-image until ambition feels unrealistic. Once comfort infects identity, the man is already dead internally. He's walking, talking, breathing, but not living. He's running on autopilot, performing the same empty routines until the grave swallows him quietly. Comfort doesn't steal ambition in one blow. It steals it thought by thought. One of the darkest parts of the comfort death spiral is how it teaches men to lie to themselves. You say you're tired, but you're not tired. You're untrained. You say you're overwhelmed, but you're not overwhelmed. You're unfocused. You say you don't have time, but you have plenty. You're just wasting it. Comfort makes men excellent liars to themselves. And once you lie to yourself consistently, you become impossible to fix. A lying man can't improve because he's hiding the truth from the only person who can help him, himself. Comfort makes dishonesty feel normal. That's why breaking the comfort spiral is so brutal. You have to strip away every comforting lie and confront the raw, unfiltered reality of who you've become. Comfort kills courage. When men stop facing challenges, they become allergic to pressure. They avoid risk, confrontation, responsibility. All the arenas where courage is forged. The modern man collapses under the smallest stress because comfort has weakened his threshold. He mistakes discomfort for danger. He mistakes pressure for trauma. He mistakes effort for suffering. Comfort convinces men they're fragile, and fragile men never chase anything worth having. Courage isn't a talent. It's a muscle, and comfort atrophies it until you can't lift your own ambition anymore. Once courage dies, the man dies with it. The comfort death spiral doesn't just weaken men. It isolates them. Strong men attract strong circles. Weak men isolate themselves out of shame. They hide from accountability. They avoid anyone who reminds them of what they should be doing. Comfort thrives in isolation. The moment a man has no strong influences around him, comfort becomes his only companion. And comfort always whispers the same message. Stay here. Don't push. Don't try. Don't rise. Don't change. You slowly become a prisoner of your own softness, locked in a cage you padded yourself. No prison is harder to escape than one you built willingly. Comfort blinds you to opportunity. When you're too comfortable, you stop seeing possibilities. You stop taking chances. You stop believing you're capable of more. You become blind to the very pathways that could save you. Hungry men see money everywhere. Comfortable men see difficulty everywhere. Hunger sharpens your perception. Comfort dulls it. That's why the system pushes comfort. It makes men blind, obedient, and dependent. It turns them into spectators of life instead of participants. The comfort death spiral is the most common cause of wasted potential. Not lack of talent, not lack of intelligence, not lack of opportunity. Comfort. Men don't fail because they couldn't succeed. They fail because they refuse to suffer. They refuse to endure. They refuse to live with urgency. Trying hurts. Comfort is painless. Trying exposes you. Comfort hides you. Trying risks humiliation. Comfort guarantees mediocrity. Men choose comfort because it feels good now. They don't realize it destroys them later. By the time they see the damage, it's already too late to rebuild. Comfort is the silent assassin of potential. It erases men one soft decision at a time. Pain is the doorway every man avoids, but it's the only doorway that leads anywhere worth going. Comfort keeps you in circles. Pain moves you forward. Pain strips away the fake identities, the lazy habits, the weak stories you've been telling yourself for years. Most men never reach the threshold of pain because they run the moment life gets difficult. They believe pain is punishment, when in reality, pain is the upgrade protocol. Pain is the system check that exposes everything soft inside you. That's why it feels harsh. It's showing you the parts of you that have to die so a stronger version can replace them. You don't become a king by avoiding pain. You become a king by surviving what would break other men. The threshold of pain is the moment where the average man escapes and the exceptional man evolves. It's where 90% quit because the discomfort feels personal. But pain doesn't care about your feelings. Pain is math. It applies pressure equally, and only those willing to endure the equation get the reward. Every transformation in my life happened right at the edge of pain. When I was broke, freezing in London, counting coins for food, that pressure didn't break me. It sharpened me. I didn't cry about it. I didn't blame the system. I used the fucking pain as fuel. Pain gives you a choice. Collapse or conquer. Weak men collapse. Strong men push until the threshold breaks. Real pain exposes real identity. when life hits you hard, when money dries up, when your back's against the wall, when hope evaporates. Your true self shows, not the polished version you post online, the raw version underneath the bullshit. Most men discover they're soft. They realize their confidence was built on comfort. But men who embrace pain become dangerous because they learn they don't need comfort to operate. They learn they can function in chaos. They learn their mind is stronger than their emotions. Once you learn to operate in pain, the world loses its leverage over you. Nothing can scare a man who has already tasted hell and kept walking. Pain is the world's most honest mirror. It reflects exactly who you are without filters. When life hurts, there's no pretending, no excuses. Pain forces you to face the truth you've been avoiding. Are you disciplined or are you lying to yourself? Are you committed or just talking? Are you building a life or performing one? Pain answers those questions loudly. It doesn't give you space to rationalize. It forces you to see the parts of your life that are weak, lazy, fake. That's why most men run. They don't want the truth. They'd rather drown in distractions than confront their reflection under pressure. Pain is brutally honest, and honesty is terrifying for weak men. The threshold of pain also destroys entitlement. Modern men think success should come easily. They think they deserve results because they tried. Trying is worthless without tolerance for pain. The world doesn't pay you for effort. It pays you for results. Pain teaches that lesson quickly. When you push past your comfort zone, lifting weight that scares you, building a business with no backup, fighting opponents stronger than you, pain makes you humble and hungry. You stop expecting gifts. You stop waiting for help. You realize the world owes you nothing. That realization is painful, but it's liberating. It puts responsibility back in your hands. Pain removes entitlement and replaces it with hunger. Pain also rewires fear. Most fear isn't physical. It's imagined. Men fear embarrassment, judgment, failure, losses. But once you've suffered real pain, financial stress, physical exhaustion, betrayal, humiliation, you realize fear is just noise. Pain teaches you that you can survive worse than your imagination suggests. That's why strong men walk differently. They've been through shit and came out harder. The world can't intimidate a man who knows he can take damage and remain standing. Pain builds that confidence. Not motivational quotes. Not self-help bullshit. Pain. Real, honest suffering that proves you're stronger than the attack. The threshold of pain is where discipline becomes instinct. At first, discipline is forced. You drag yourself to the gym. You force yourself to work. You grit your teeth and push through resistance. But once you cross the threshold, your mind changes. Like discipline becomes identity. It becomes easier to do the hard thing than avoid it. That's the shift pain creates. Once you adapt to hardship, comfort starts to disgust you. Laziness irritates you. Procrastination feels like self-betrayal. Pain changes the wiring. You stop negotiating with yourself because pain has already proven that negotiation is weakness. Your mind becomes your weapon instead of your enemy. Pain also purifies purpose. Without pain, your goals are blurry. They sound good, but they don't mean much. When you suffer for a mission, the mission hardens. If you've ever pushed through exhaustion to keep training, built a business on no sleep, or fought through days where everything went wrong, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Pain takes your goals from nice to haves to I'll die for this. That's when purpose becomes unstoppable. The system can't distract a man whose purpose has been forged in pain. Comfort can't lure him. Fear can't slow him. Only pain can produce that level of certainty. You also learn through pain who belongs in your life. Anyone can stand beside you when life is comfortable. Friends, relationships, family, they all seem loyal when everything's easy. But when life hurts, people reveal their true motives. Some disappear. Some mock you. Some pretend to support you while secretly hoping you fail. Pain exposes real loyalty. It cuts your circle in half and then cuts it again. At the threshold of pain, you realize you need fewer people, not more. The ones who stay when shit hits the fan. Those are the people who deserve space in your kingdom. Pain builds the tribe. Comfort just fills the room with noise. The threshold of pain also kills dependency. When you survive moments where no one helped you, where you had to dig your own way out of darkness, you learn the most important lesson of all. You can rely on yourself. That's not ego. That's survival. Pain shows you that you're capable of more than you ever imagined. That self-reliance becomes your armor. It makes you immune to emotional manipulation, immune to external validation. Immune to the guilt the system uses to control weak men. Pain turns you into a man who chooses alliances, not needs them. That's power. One of the greatest gifts of pain is clarity. Pain wipes out distraction. When life hits you brutally, only what matters remains. All the bullshit you thought was important, clout, gossip, comfort, validation, it all disappears. Pain forces you to prioritize. It strips your life down to mission, discipline, survival, and truth. Everything else becomes irrelevant. That level of clarity is rare in a world built on noise. Pain is the only tool strong enough to cut through the chaos and reveal your real path. Pain also forces adaptation. You don't grow when everything is smooth. You grow when reality slaps you in the face and demands evolution. Pain pushes your limits, expands your capability, and forces your brain to innovate. The strongest versions of yourself emerge when you're pressed against the wall with no option but forward. Pain turns potential into power through pressure. Without pressure, there's no transformation. Without pain, there's no evolution. The threshold of pain is the birthplace of self-respect. You can't respect yourself if you've never tested yourself. You can't walk with confidence if you've never faced adversity. Self-respect comes from earning your own approval through hardship. Pain is the test you pass for yourself. And once you've passed enough of those tests, confidence becomes natural. Not loud, not fake. Quiet, controlled, intimidating. Pain builds that aura. Comfort destroys it. The threshold of pain is where the average man breaks. And where the king is born. Reinvention doesn't happen in comfort. Reinvention happens when life beats you into a corner so tight you either evolve or fucking die. Every powerful man you admire, fighter, billionaire, strategist, king, was forged in a moment where pain burned away the version of himself that wasn't built for war. Reinvention is not inspirational, it's violent. It's the death of who you were, the disintegration of your old identity, the collapse of the comfortable narrative you used to hide behind. Reinvention requires a funeral, your own. You bury the excuses, the softness, the hesitation, the bullshit stories, and you crawl out with a new operating system. Pain is the fire that incinerates the man you can't be anymore. The fire of reinvention starts when your old life becomes too tight for your future self. You feel restless. You feel angry. You feel trapped. That frustration isn't random. It's a universe cracking the shell around you. But most men ignore the signal. They numb it with scrolling, drugs, comfort, sex, food, and fake motivation. They avoid the burn because the burn feels like death. But the ones who rise, the ones who become fucking weapons, are the ones who walk into that burn deliberately. They allow the discomfort to reshape them. Reinvention begins the second you stop protecting your old version and start killing it. Pain forces reinvention because it demands new capability. When you're in deep shit, money gone, relationship collapsed, career dead, reputation attacked. You can't rely on old habits. You can't run your life on outdated programming. Pain forces you to upgrade. It demands new skills, new strategies, new standards. Pain tells you what you were is not enough. That message hurts, but it's true. The version of you that got you into this situation cannot be the version that gets you out. Reinvention is mandatory because your future self requires different behaviors, different thinking, different discipline. Pain unlocks that evolution. Reinvention also demands brutal self-awareness. Pain exposes your weaknesses, your patterns, your addictions, your blind spots. When everything collapses around you, you can't pretend anymore. You see exactly where you've been cheating yourself. You see the shortcuts, the laziness, the fake discipline, the cowardice you've been hiding. That clarity stings like hell. Most men run from it. But strong men use it. They take every painful truth as data. They study their failures, their flaws, their patterns. They dissect themselves like a mechanic pulling apart a broken engine. Reinvention starts with knowing exactly why your old identity had to burn. The fire of reinvention forces isolation. Not the sad, lonely, weak kind. Strategic isolation. Pain pushes you into silence because talking becomes pointless. You stop seeking advice from weaklings who don't understand your path. You stop wasting energy trying to explain your suffering to people who can't help you. You sit alone with your pain and let it carve new strength into your mind. That isolation sharpens your instincts. It builds self-reliance. It forces you to trust your own judgment. Pain isolates you so you can hear the voice of the man you're becoming. A voice too quiet to be heard in comfort. Reinvention demands disgust. Every massive transformation in my life came from a moment where I looked at myself and thought, this is fucking unacceptable. That feeling, disgust at your own bullshit, is one of the most powerful fuels in existence. Pain heightens that disgust. It makes the weaknesses unbearable. It makes mediocrity painful. It makes comfort insulting. When you're disgusted with who you've become, you stop negotiating with your excuses. You stop tolerating your own softness. You stop protecting your limitations. Disgust is the spark. Pain is the accelerant. But together, they burn the old self to ash. Pain also creates urgency. When you're suffering, you don't have time to waste. You don't scroll. You don't procrastinate. You don't overthink. Pain puts a fucking clock in your head. Every minute becomes expensive. That urgency is where reinvention thrives. Comfort slows you. Pain speeds you up. When you're pressed against the wall, you move faster, think sharper, execute harder. While pain compresses time, it forces you to act now because later is not guaranteed. Reinvention needs that urgency because without it, you fall back into the same lazy rhythms that built your old identity. Reinvention also forces new standards. When pain hits hard, you realize your standards were too low. You tolerated too much nonsense. You accepted too much disrespect. You allowed too much laziness. Pain pushes you to raise the bar aggressively. You stop letting weak friends drain you. You stop letting comfort dictate your actions. You stop letting emotions override discipline. Every new version of yourself demands higher standards. Pain gives you the leverage to enforce them harshly. You're no longer afraid to cut people off, change your environment, or rebuild your routines because pain has already shown you the cost of staying soft. Pain forces creative reinvention. When your back is against the wall, you start thinking differently. You look for angles, opportunities, tactics you never considered before. You stop limiting yourself to one plan. You create 5. You stop following paths. You start carving new ones. Reinvention requires creativity, and nothing sparks creativity like desperation. When you're pressed by pain, your mind starts firing with urgency. You innovate, you adapt, you stop being predictable. Reinvention is not linear. It's explosive. Pain triggers that explosion. Pain also strips away emotional weakness. The man who survives pain stops getting offended. He stops caring about public opinion. He stops craving validation. Pain teaches emotional control because you simply don't have the energy to care about bullshit anymore. You get focused. You get selective. You get sharper. Reinvention demands emotional discipline. Pain provides it. The more you hurt, the less you tolerate nonsense. Emotional fragility burns quickly in the fire of reinvention. Reinvention requires identity detachment. You must detach from the image you have of yourself. Most men cling to their identity, even if it's killing them. Pain forces you to question everything. Who am I? What the fuck am I doing? What do I actually want? That discomfort is essential. You must detach from the old identity before you can build a new one. Pain removes the safety of familiarity. It pushes you into unknown territory. That unknown is where reinvention lives. The old identity cannot survive the fire. Only the upgraded version can. The fire of reinvention also tests your integrity. When you're suffering, shortcuts look tempting. You want relief, you want escape, you want the pain to fucking stop. But this is where men either ascend or fall. If you break your own code during suffering, lie, cheat, quit, you destroy the foundation of your future self. Reinvention built on dishonesty collapses instantly. But if you hold the line during pain, if you stay disciplined, stay truthful, stay focused, you emerge with a level of self-respect that cannot be stolen. Pain is the exam. Integrity is the grade. Pain also amplifies gratitude, not the fake spiritual kind. Real gratitude. When you've been through hell, every small win feels massive. A good day feels like victory. A small step feels like momentum. Pain makes you appreciate the progress because you earned it brutally. Gratitude becomes fuel instead of weakness. It keeps you grounded, focused, and stable as you rebuild. Pain recalibrates your appreciation so you can move with intensity instead of entitlement. The fire of reinvention creates power because it forces you to become resourceful. When life collapses, you can't rely on luck. You can't rely on comfort. You can't rely on anyone else. You rely on your mind, your discipline, your adaptability, your grit. When you rebuild from nothing, you realize you don't need much to rise. Just pressure, hunger, and strategy. Pain teaches you that you can build with your bare fucking hands if necessary. That realization is dangerous because a self-made man becomes impossible to control. Reinvention also rewires your ambition. Pain kills the small goals. You stop thinking in tiny increments. You start thinking in empires. Pain expands your vision because once you survive catastrophe, normal-sized dreams feel insulting. You begin to aim higher because the old version of you wasn't built for greatness. But the new one is. Pain doesn't just change what you want. It changes what you believe you're capable of. Pain turns men into weapons because it gives them a story. A man with a story walks differently, talks differently, moves differently. Suffering gives you narrative, and narrative gives you strength. A man who has survived hell carries a presence that comfort cannot produce. He becomes the kind of man people follow instinctively because his pain has polished him into steel. Pain becomes the signature of his power. Pain does not create weakness. It reveals it so you can burn it away. Pain does not destroy men. It destroys the bullshit around them so the real man can finally breathe. Suffering is the crown every king is forced to wear before he ever earns a throne. You don't get power by reading books or repeating affirmations. You get power by surviving the kind of storms that would break average men into fucking dust. The world doesn't hand crowns to comfortable people. It hands bills, obligations, and sedatives. The crown is reserved for the men who walk through hell carrying their mission instead of collapsing under it. Suffering is the initiation ritual. Every empire begins with a man who got punched by life so hard that the softness inside him died on impact. The crown is forged from bruises, scars, rejections, betrayals, and losses. Pain doesn't decorate the king. It builds him. The truth most men run from is this. Suffering introduces you to yourself. When everything falls apart, when money dries up, when opportunities vanish, when people betray you, there's no mask left. You're naked in front of your own weaknesses. And that moment, that brutal self-exposure is where the crown is first molded. You either crumble like the fragile version of yourself you've been pretending wasn't there, or you grow fangs. Suffering strips away illusions. It reveals the skeleton of your character. Most men can't look at that skeleton without flinching. Strong men look at it and say, good. Now I know what the fuck to rebuild. Pain also reveals who your allies truly are. Nothing exposes loyalty faster than struggle. When things are comfortable, weak men swarm around you for scraps. Validation, association, convenience. But the moment you fall, the parasites scatter. That's a blessing, not a loss. Suffering trims the circle, filters the noise, silences the leeches. A man with a crown forged by pain walks alone before he ever walks with power. This solitude is where strategy is born. Powerless men cling to groups. Kings build vision in silence. Pain isolates you long enough to understand your path without external contamination. Every great man you know, fighters, founders, billionaires, legends, had a chapter where suffering turned them into something unrecognizable from who they used to be. Tate had it when he was broke in London, eating discount meals, hustling chess lessons, sleeping in a freezing room with no certainty of tomorrow. That suffering wasn't just an obstacle. It was a fucking architect. The hunger, the urgency, the desperation. It carved discipline into his bones. It shaped his worldview. It sharpened his aggression. Without that period, without that grind, without that pressure, he wouldn't have built power that echoes globally. Men are not forged in luxury. They are forged in fire. Suffering rewires your fear response. When you go through enough hell, fear stops being a threat. You begin to see it as feedback. Pain makes fear familiar, and familiarity kills intimidation. When you've already survived your worst nightmares, poverty, humiliation, betrayal, collapse, you stop being scared of daily inconveniences. Anxiety fades because the stakes stop feeling fatal. Pain immunizes you against emotional paralysis. You stop hesitating. You stop flinching. You stop doubting. The man who has walked through fire doesn't fear sparks. That indifference to fear is what makes kings move like they're unstoppable. Pain also expands your capacity. Most men never test the limits of their endurance because comfort keeps them weak. They think they'll break after small stress. But pain exposes how much more you can actually carry. Every time you push through a burden you thought would shatter you, your capacity doubles. And once you learn you can endure more than you believe possible, you start attacking life with violence. You work harder, train harder, strategize harder. Suffering stops being a threat and becomes a resource. The more you bleed, the more you adapt. Kings aren't born with capacity. They earn it by lifting weights life shouldn't have put on their shoulders. Suffering also sharpens clarity. When you're torn apart, your values become visible. You realize what actually matters. And spoiler, it's not the shit society brainwashed you into chasing. Pain makes the bullshit fall away. You stop caring about opinions. You stop chasing validation. You stop clinging to fake goals. Suddenly, you see your mission with terrifying accuracy. You see your priorities. You see your weaknesses. You see the bullshit routines that kept you stagnant. Pain strips your life to the essentials so you can rebuild with precision. Clarity is a gift wrapped in misery. Pain makes you strategic. When you're suffering, you start thinking like a general, not a participant. You analyze patterns, you study behavior, you anticipate betrayal, you sharpen instincts. You learn to read rooms, read people, read threats. Suffering makes your brain tactical because chaos forces efficiency. Comfortable men react. Men forged by pain predict. They see moves ahead. They become hard to deceive, hard to manipulate, hard to surprise. Pain teaches you to think in consequences, not feelings. And that mindset is what puts a crown on your fucking head. Suffering also strengthens your emotional armor. Most men cry over comments, setbacks, minor inconveniences. Their emotions rule them like a dictator. But a man who's gone through real suffering becomes emotionally bulletproof. He's not numb. He's calibrated. He knows what deserves a reaction and what's just noise. He doesn't break down when criticized. He doesn't crumble when stressed. He doesn't spiral when disappointed. Pain taught him emotional endurance. Those who felt real devastation don't get derailed by small storms. Emotional strength is a side effect of surviving emotional war. Pain forces responsibility. When you're suffering, you can't blame your boss, your parents, your partner, society, the economy. You're too deep in the shit to point fingers. Pain corners you until you accept one truth. No one is coming. No one is saving you. No one is fixing your life for you. That realization hurts like hell, but it wakes you the fuck up. Responsibility is the foundation of kingship. A king accepts ownership over everything. His wins, his losses, his outcomes. Weak men outsource responsibility and stay broke. Strong men absorb it and rise. Pain forces that shift brutally. Suffering destroys entitlement. Comfort breeds arrogance. Pain deletes it. Pain humbles you, and humility is the gateway to progress. When you suffer, you realize how far you still have to climb. You realize your skill gaps, your strategic blind spots, your fragilities. That humility doesn't weaken you. It sharpens you. It keeps you hungry. It keeps you coachable. It keeps you learning. Entitled men stagnate. Men who suffered elevate. Pain makes you grateful for opportunities that comfortable men take for granted. Gratitude paired with aggression builds unstoppable momentum. Pain also teaches you patience. Suffering stretches time. It forces you to endure slow progress, long nights, heavy days. That patience becomes lethal when you combine it with ambition. Kings don't rush the process. They bleed through it. They understand compounding. They understand long-term strategy. They understand delayed gratification. Suffering teaches you to play the decades game instead of the dopamine game. Comfortable men quit too early. Men forged in pain don't fucking quit because they know the timeline is irrelevant. Only the mission matters. Pain builds self-trust. Every time you survive something you thought would break you, you trust yourself more. That trust becomes the foundation of confidence. Not the fake motivational kind, but the quiet, immovable, grounded confidence that makes people listen when you speak. When you trust yourself deeply, you don't look for approval. You don't look for permission. You don't look for reassurance. You become your own authority. Pain is the only place that kind of trust comes from. You earn confidence by surviving chaos, not by pretending to be confident on social media. Pain teaches you to weaponize solitude. Suffering often isolates you. Relationships break. People fall away. The world goes quiet. But solitude is where self-made men build their blueprints. It's where strategy is born. It's where identity is reforged. Solitude is not a punishment. It's an armory. Men who fear being alone will never build anything powerful. Men who thrive alone become dangerous. Pain forces solitude long enough for you to transform into someone the world no longer recognizes. Suffering creates detachment. When life fucks you over enough times, you stop clinging. You stop being needy. You stop attaching your worth to outcomes, opinions, or people. You develop a calm, unshakable detachment that makes you unpredictable and untouchable. Detachment is a superpower. The man who doesn't fear loss becomes impossible to control. Suffering teaches you that everything external is temporary and everything internal is eternal. That shift is where kingship begins. Pain gives you narrative power when you tell your story, your real story. Men listen, not because you're loud, but because you've lived what they fear. A man who has suffered carries an energy that doesn't need explanation. His presence teaches. His scars teach. His discipline teaches. Pain gives you authority without needing permission. Comfortable men talk. Men who suffered speak truth that hits like a blade. Pain does not break kings. Pain builds them from scratch.